So how is the housing market actually doing? What's going on, guys? My name is Nick Minio. I'm a licensed loan officer in California, and today we received the report for signed contracts in the month of February. This is a good indicator of the real estate market and as close to real time as we could get. And I'll tell you what, it looks like the housing market is a true survivor. Despite all of this negativity in the media, the housing market is still standing strong. So let's look into the numbers. All right, so this report is of pending home sales, which is measuring the amount of contracts that went pending in the month of February. Now, February was a challenging month. During the month of February, we saw interest rates increase dramatically by going up almost 1%. And we were coming off a blistering hot month in January, which saw an increase of pending home sales by 8%. Which is a huge jump. But still, the housing market in the month of February did pretty well. Home contracts for pending home sales were up in February by 0.8%. So we saw an increase in activity by nearly 1% in a month where we also saw interest rates increase by almost 1%. The consensus was for pending home sales to be down by 3% in the month of February. So seeing that it actually is up by 0.8%, this is a really good number. This also marks 3 consecutive months of a gain, and we're approaching the spring real estate market, which is historically a busier time in our industry. So all of these naysayers out there who have been preaching that the real estate market is going to crash, and trust me, there's been a lot of them, especially in the mainstream media, specifically Diana Aulick of CNBC. Just the way that she talks about these pending home sales numbers, you wouldn't think that this is a good report at all. You have to remember that the mainstream media is going to try to drive fear, and they're going to put a negative twist on these headlines. Diana Aulick has been negative on the real estate market for at least the last 10 years, but I guess she's sticking to her story here. So let's watch a little clip of how she delivered the news of the pending home sale numbers for the month of February.
Pending home sales eked out a tiny 0.8% gain in February.
All right, so right off the bat, Diana Aulick is trying to be as negative as possible by using adjectives like tiny and eked out. It's almost as if she's trying to have us dismiss this, and if it's something that we shouldn't be paying attention to. There's no mention at all that this is the third month of a gain that we're seeing, and that these numbers are way better than expectations. Again, the market was expecting for this number to be down by 3 percentage points, and here we are with it up nearly 1%. Now let's take a look at the rest of this video because there's more to this.
Pending home sales eked out a tiny 0.8% gain in February compared with January, still down just over 21% from a year ago, that all according to the realtors. The monthly gain is much smaller than the 8% jump we saw in January, and here's why. Take a look at mortgage rates. They started dropping off their fall highs in December and then came down sharply in January, but boom, shot right back up in February from 6% to over 7%. These pending sales are based on signed contracts during the month, people out shopping when their purchasing power suddenly got smaller because of those higher rates.
This is potentially the most shocking thing that she does in this segment, where she's explaining that rates went up in February and that's the only reason we're seeing an 0.8% increase. But this is the exact reason it should be obvious to everyone that there is underlying strength in the real estate market. We know in January that rates went down and there was a pop in activity during that month, but even in February where we saw mortgage rates increase by about 1%, you still saw an increase of 0.8% in pending home sales. Now, sales are still down from last year and there's still more work to be done, but I think it's safe to say that there's some reason to believe that the worst might be behind us at this point. Imagine what the reaction will be from buyers when we start to see rates in the low 5s, and we strongly believe this is going to happen as the inflation numbers start to come down. So as rates move lower and we approach the spring, we definitely expect activity to start to increase over these next few months. So the point here is that you cannot believe all this negativity that the media constantly puts out there. Again, they try to drive fear with these negative headlines to make the consumer believe that the housing market is going to crash. Don't let the media be the reason that you potentially back out of the real estate market and miss out on opportunities to gain wealth.